Hello, fans of Bliss Wine Club. Andrey here in scenic and lovely Dallas, Texas, at the site of the Advanced Sommelier course for the Quartermaster Sommeliers, and also the site of the new domicile for a very good old friend of mine, Phil Boyson, who is actually behind the camera today, and he's going to take a couple of seconds out and kind of help me talk through the wines for this month's wine club shipment, which you should be getting any minute now. So, hi Phil. Introduce yourself.
What's going on, team?
Yeah, so Phil and I were fraternity brothers back together in St. Louis University, and him and his wife Megan live here in Dallas, and I am lucky enough to sit at their home and talk to you about one of our newest wineries. This is Balthasar Ress. This is a producer that is located in the Rheingau region of Germany. I had the pleasure of visiting them about 2 years ago, this is an opportunity to kind of try some things that are outside of the typical mold of German wine. But this is also very much a great example of where Germany's going. I think that for a lot of wine professionals, Germany is thought of as just Riesling and maybe some Pinot Noir here and there. But that may be true. That's definitely number one, number two grape wine for white and red, respectively. But there's lots of really fun stuff that young winemakers are doing, and I think that it is a. Can I get a passcode yet? Mm-hmm. It is a opportunity to kind of showcase the breadth of what Germany has to offer. So our newest winery is going to be Balthasar Ress, like I said. Stefan Sanger is the winemaker, and they're located in the Rheingau. The Rheingau is a very historic region. It's the one part of Germany where the Rhine River, which is the main river in Germany, runs east to west. Everything else is north-south, but here, right, kind of just maybe like half an hour outside of the wonderful scenic Frankfurt Airport, you will see the Rhine River turn from running straight directly due north, almost do a direct 90-degree turn, and where it does so ends up being one of the classic and one of the great wine regions for German wine. Mostly planted to Riesling. About 93% of the region is planted to Riesling. It is essentially one big hillside that consists of about 18 different villages, strewn just kind of looking directly down at the Rhine River. The villages themselves can be incredibly, fairly steep, like almost like this steep when you get all the way out to the western side by Rudesheim and Aspenshausen, but this is going to be not quite that far away. This is in Hottenheim, and so about yay steep on the level, and a really great location. This was a region that was planted to grapes all the way back in about 800 or so. Charlemagne was also specifically have been noted to drink wines that were planted on this exact hillside, and for a really long time it's been seen as one of the premier, definitely one of the top 5 wine growing regions in Germany. It's actually probably my favorite. My favorite producer is located in the Rheingau. If you ever get a chance to drink Robert Weil, not exactly on the natural side, but just damn delicious wine. But one of the reasons I wanted to go here is because Balthasar Ress was very excited to kind of join the Bliss portfolio, and they had the pleasure of them hosting me back in September of 2019. And here's 3 wines that we tried from that visit, and we're going to taste them with you today. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try the Pet Nat. And the Pet Nat, as you can see, is unfiltered. It is nice and cloudy. This is Riesling, and what makes it a little bit unique is that, first of all, I usually don't see Riesling Pet Nat. I've not seen one too many times before, outside of Germany, obviously. But it's done in a traditional style, meaning that a Pet Nat, what it means, Pet Nat Naturel. It's a sparkling wine that starts fermentation, in a barrel or a tank or something else of the sort, and then halfway through fermentation, without filtering, without doing anything, you just put it in the bottle, and it finishes the fermentation in the bottle, and that's what gives it the carbonation. So it's a semi-sparkling wine. As compared to champagne, champagne's got enough pressure. It basically has the same amount of pressure as your car tire does, about 6 atmospheres. This is about half of that. So it's lightly sparkling. It just has this really nice kind of a pleasant little texture to it on the palate. And it is delicious. Yeah, a lot of tangerine, a lot of peach notes, very ripe kind of stone fruit, which is exactly what you would expect from Riesling, because that's exactly what Riesling should and does taste like. It has this really nice and more of a tropical, almost like a mango quality to it. And so if you're thinking about what should I eat with this, like anything that has a mango in it would probably do pretty well. It's the height of summer, so peaches in salads are a very common thing. This would absolutely just set that flavor profile off even more. I think it would highlight great chutneys and salsas and things that you see in coastal Mexican cuisine, and in general, just seafood with this, especially shrimp, I think are just great options. This is a wine that also is very quaffable. It's 12.5% alcohol. It's ironically the highest in alcohol of these three wines, and so if you're looking for a really good thing to take to the park, maybe have a bottle of and not feel sloshy by the afternoon, really good opportunity there. The other kind of really fun great thing is that these wines are very consistent, and that's one thing that I really liked about Balthasar Ress across all of their offerings when I tried them, and from everything that we've heard of from other other members of the Bliss family trying these wines. They're incredibly precise. They last. They hold up really well. And if you didn't want to finish the entire bottle, it's going to be just as good tomorrow. Just probably just a little bit less sparkling, or if you have a little champagne stopper to put on top, I'd highly recommend it. Yeah. Any thoughts, Phil? Would you like it?
No, this is awesome. It's definitely drinking like a champagne. I mean, especially for an unfiltered, this is going on real smooth.
Yeah.
Is this a trend? Kind of happening right now, or how long have people been doing Pet Nat?
Oh God, Pet Nat's been around since people have been making wine.
Okay.
Pet Nat originally started in France, in the mountain regions of France, where people would start fermentation and then finish it inside of a bottle, because the fermentation, the winter is coming essentially, and you want to start the ferment, and then you want to put it away into somewhere like a cellar or somewhere underground, so that if your winery is up in the mountains somewhere and it starts snowing, then your fermentation doesn't stop because if it stops, it's not going to start again until it's warm enough for the yeast to wake back up. And so a lot of times you saw this in mountainous regions of France, but also it's a way to say you have a little bit of a space issue. You have a barrel or two, and you have red wine coming in. Well, what do? You start the fermentation of the white wine, and then if you let the fermentation go all the way through its natural cycle, then you have red grapes that need to come in that probably use the same exact space that white juice is using. Well, what do? They're like, I don't know, put it in a bottle or put it in something and let it ferment all the way through inside of that bottle. And once they figured out, that you just needed a little bit of a thick bottle, it took off. It's a fun style. It's not always dry. This one I would say is fully dry.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's actually perfect for how hot it is in Texas.
Yes. Oh, it's great. Yeah. I live in a permanent wine fridge, so I love this. This is awesome. It's some very pleasant 95 degrees outside right now, and I absolutely love it. But it's not all Pet Nats are all the way dry. Sometimes producers will choose to stop the fermentation by just putting it somewhere really cold and just stopping the yeast from going further. But generally speaking, it can be sweet, it can be dry. But this is a really beautiful dry style. and really versatile style, and really great for this time of year. So let's move on. Let's move on to something a little bit more traditional, and then this is just the straight Trocken Rheingau Riesling from 2020. Trocken, if you ever see that on a German wine bottle, in general, German wine bottles are scary sometimes because the Germans they like to give you all the information. If you look on the back of the wine bottle, it gets even more fun. There's a couple of terms on here that if you're wondering what the hell does this mean. All right, I'm just going to read it off the back. I'm sure you're going to have the bottle in front of you at some point in time. You have, it says Weißwein, white wine, or Vin Blanc. And then the Von Unserm is the name of the wine itself. Rheingau is the region, Riesling is the grape. Then it says the word Trocken, which means dry. It says Gutsabfüllung, which means estate bottled, meaning that like everything was actually produced on the actual estate. They didn't outsource it. They didn't like send it to another like custom crush facility. Like they actually have a winery. Then it also says Qualitätswein. Qualitätswein means that it is a wine that has to meet a couple of certain like specifications, but it just means it's quality wine. Then everything else is fairly nerdy. Cool. The fun thing is that if you ever want to see how precise the Germans are, there's a little thing back on the back. There's a little number on here called the AP. It's the Achtung-Prüfungsnummer. The Prüfungsnummer is a code that every single bottle of German wine gets. It starts with the first the Anbaugebiete in which or the wine region it was made. Which is 31 is apparently the code for Rheingau, which I thought it was not, but okay. Overall, that's fine. And then it gives you the number of the bottler, the producer, the bottling, and then the year that it was submitted for the Qualitätswein. So very, very, very precise stuff. Anyway, enough of the nerdy stuff. Basically, this is a blend of grapes that they get from their various holdings within Hottenheim and the neighboring villages. If it was a single vineyard, or if it was a Prädikatswein, which is a little bit more expensive, and tends to also be, can be sweet or dry, it would have a little bit of a longer kind of a labeling, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is classic young Riesling. It smells like snap peas, it smells like mint, it smells like chervil, and it has this really, really pretty kind of a lime and a white peach combination. Generally speaking, Riesling has an evolution in citrus that it goes through as it gets older. When Riesling first starts out, when it's dry especially, it starts out tasting like lime. And then as it starts to progress into a couple of years in, it starts to taste like lemon. And then after it gets older and older, it goes into like orange. And after a while, it goes into like the candy qualities of orange, almost got an orange marmalade. Unless you're in Australia, then it just always smells like lime because the Aussies are just really, really good at that particular style. So when people say it's like, Riesling, it's a sweet wine. Well, no, it's a grape. A lot of times what we saw here in the United States are examples of Riesling that were sweet, that were cheap, and were imported for commercial reasons. And we adapted that as kind of like, associating one with the other. You know how like, you associate Napa Valley with Cabernet? Well, is Cabernet the only thing that you grow in Napa Valley? No. Riesling is a grape like any other grape. You can make it into a dry wine, you can make it into a sweet wine. All you have to do is just stop the fermentation, with temperature or sulfur or something, and to keep the sugar in there, and boom, you have a sweet wine. Germany is just historically known for sweet wines because historically, Germany is a northern country. It's got some issues when it comes to being able to ripen things. And so to make a wine that is luscious and sweet and very concentrated is actually a big point of pride. It historically was a big point of pride for Germans, and why some of the quality wines that come out of the country are really intense and very sweet. It's because those are the ones that are hardest to make. because it takes a long time, and it takes an ideal growing season or an ideal site in order to get grapes to a ripeness level to where they can make a wine that's that intense and that sweet. But nowadays the trend is very much going towards this. More than half of Germany's wine production is now in dry wine. Actually, like 60%, I would say, and it is a style that is refreshing and light. And Riesling is my favorite white grape on the planet. So I don't really have much else to say about how good and how versatile this grape can be. As you can see, it can be made into a sparkling wine, a still wine, a dessert wine, an orange wine. It can be basically anything you want it to be and still have that character of citrus and rockiness and floral qualities and that really beautiful peachy kind of like nectarine flavor profile. So let's taste this. Wow, that does not suck. Billy should try this.
Might have already done that.
Yep. A really fun game that I like to play with people is when we talk about acidity. And like acidity is inherently really, really good with food. Like why do we like food and wine together? Because when you put acid on your palate, especially if you keep it on your palate, you start to salivate. And when you salivate, you open up all the flavor receptors down here at the bottom of your palate, and you start to taste things much more vividly. So when you drink really acidic things, like why we like champagne at the beginning of a meal, why we like really dry white wines at the beginning of the meal, because it gets our palate kind of going. With this, we have really a smorgasbord of things that we can do with it. Obviously, the classic thing with dry Riesling is sushi. That's a no-brainer. Sashimi, crudo, anything that is served raw and comes out of the water is generally probably going to be a good idea with this. Part of the reason why also is that whenever you prepare those things, you usually have some kind of citrus element to to garnish or to add a little bit of acidity to the dish, and just citrus and citrus here just always meld together. It's just like a natural bridge that happens. So if you're having sushi takeout, if you're having something that maybe just like shrimp or scallops or things like that you're cooking, when you're using a little bit of lemon on top of it, there's a little spritz of lemon. Think of Riesling as just attaching itself to that little spritz of lemon, and it's just going to intensify that citrus flavor, and it's just going to bring all those kind of other flavors, sweetness out of your seafood. So that's one way to approach it. Another really cool thing that Riesling goes well with is actually vegetables. Not as well as Gruner Veltliner, but almost along the same lines. But have you ever tried to drink red wine with like peas or green beans or spinach? It's bitter. It doesn't taste good. It actually makes the food taste worse. And that's one of the things that we try not to do in food and wine pairing. Generally there's three things that can happen. The wine pairing can just be absolutely magical and changes the flavor profile of the dish and and the wine when you put them together. That's great. There's this thing we call Switzerland, where it's like, yeah, it's neutral. It's like, it's fine. It's cool. Like, not one way or the other. And then there's this thing that that sometimes happens when you can actually make it actually considerably worse. And that is something that, like I said, with vegetables, red wine has a tendency to actually do sometimes. I'm just going to look up one little small thing. By the way, if you guys haven't visited the Bliss website, all of these things are up to date and give you some really in-depth information that our friend Alex over and Alex Claus over in Poland has compiled with the help of our winemakers, and then I just kind of added in some tasting notes. But this is a wine that has a little bit of residual sugar to it. Like, this is an interesting little taste. It's like, it says Trocken on it, but this has 6 grams per liter of sugar. This is not a small amount, but this is actually the exact amount that is normally in champagne. So whenever you drink brut champagne, it comes off as dry, right? Well, it's because acidity and sweetness cancel each other out. There's so much acid inherently in these grapes, or in this wine, that it makes all the sugar kind of melt in the background and actually really kind of like, you know, balance each other out. This is from, like I said, from a few different parts of the region. It goes all the way from Rudesheim all the way to the west, all the way to Eltville and Orbach, all the way to the east. Sorry, Rudesheim to the east, Eltville and Orbach all the way to the west. And it's a really great kind of example of just a really good entry level, nice, solid, everyday sipping dry Riesling. Phil, have you had a lot of experience with, like, you know, dry Riesling in general?
Yeah, actually, thanks to you, partly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's poetic that you said it. No, honestly, from the same region, some dry. We did a tasting with at Weingut Hart.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had, and honestly, like this is fantastic. This is a really stellar. And they honestly didn't have this dry until some of their higher end.
Yeah, the
10
GG.
years and like GGs and like, so this is, I haven't gotten this yet from you, but this has got to be an amazing value for it, because that was some of their premium stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one of the things with Riesling in Germany is that you don't, you know, the Germans are very frugal by nature, you know, and they'll be the first to tell you. It's like, you know, if you get somebody from Germany to spend, you know, 50 euros on a bottle of wine, that's a special occasion, you know, like that's somebody's birthday or something. And so I think, you know, as far as white wine goes, and as far as, like, you know, premium, high quality white wine made in a very precise way and a very technically sound way, I think Germany provides some of the best value, ironically, in the world. Which is interesting to say, because, like, you know, you would think of it, it's like, you know, you would think that German wine would be expensive because, like, it's a fairly, you know, well-off country. Yeah,
the cars are expensive.
The cars are expensive. You know, things that last for a while are expensive, but wine is not so much. You know, we're not in Italy, so it's. I think it's a really great deal, and I think it's a really perfect summer wine. You know, as I said, you can have it with food, you can have it with seafood, great with Thai food as well, great with Vietnamese food, but also just delicious to enjoy on its own. And then, so I think we have one more wine to go through, and that's the orange wine. And this is the really fun one. It is, well, let's see, let's pour it. It's like, I haven't had this wine for quite a while since I went to the winery. It is a blend of Pinot Blanc and Riesling. It varies, honestly, from year to year between how much Pinot Blanc and how much Riesling there is. But it is a single vineyard, basically it's a single vineyard wine, but German wine law does not really allow for skin contact orange wine to carry a single vineyard label. It's not an allowed Prädikatswein. And within Germany, basically every single wine region or wine growing area, like every single Anbaugebiet, is specifically allowed certain grapes that it can use in its highest quality wines. Rheingau is one of the few the only white grape that is allowed for Prädikatswein, or for like the higher quality wines, is Riesling. And because this has Pinot Blanc in it, this doesn't qualify for that. And it's also orange, and that's just not normal. But this is coming from the Wholesale vineyard in the village of Hottenheim, and it's everything's harvested by hand. It's done on the skins for, let's see, it's a couple of months. And the really interesting thing is that it's a it's a style of wine that, like, obviously has become very popular, not just within natural wine, but just in wine in general, because it's very versatile with food and wine pairing. There's a lot of things that go with orange wine that just don't go with anything else. So if you're ever like, putting together like, a dinner and they have like all these disparate like, flavors on the table, and you have no idea what the hell's gonna go with this, with your quinoa and apricot salad, as well as your, your lamb tartare, and also some, herb salad with tomatoes or something, like, just throw orange wine at it. Like, you'd be surprised how well it actually does. But it is a wine that is a little bit challenging. I think that this is a great wine to have with like hard cheeses, like Parmesan, things of that nature. It's also really good with things like squash and pumpkin for the fall time. But unlike some orange wine, which can be overly intense, overly abrasive, or has a ton of vinegar smell to it, this wine has none of that. This wine tastes like apricots, dried apricots and peaches. It reminds me much more of Georgian wine than it does some of the orange wine that I see coming out of a lot of parts of the world. It's very well balanced, and I am a big proponent of wine, and I think Aaliyah will back me up on this, of in order for the wine, for me to put my stamp on it, it has to be delicious. It can't just be like the winemaker's cool, or this wine doesn't taste like normal wine, or like they're using some really cool new technique. But like, if it's not delicious, then the wine's really not worth shit. This wine is absolutely drinkable and yummy and in balance, and it's one of the better orange wines that, again, like I said, outside of Georgia, and we don't mean Atlanta, that can capture that real difficult balance of not having too much volatile acidity, not having too much intensity, being able to be enjoyed both with food and without it. And I think that it's just a really a fun wine to have. If you want, it's obviously summer. These two are great to drink right now, this especially. If you want to put this one away for the fall and wait for pumpkin and squash and things like that to come out, so that would be a great wine to save for Thanksgiving. I think you'd be doing yourself a big favor. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that Balthasar Ress, they own a lot of they own vineyards all over the Rheingau. Over 70% of them are considered very high quality vineyards. I just wanted to double check. I can't remember if they're all actually considered Grossgewächs, or or like some of the best vineyards in Germany. Yes, actually they are. And it's pretty insane. It's like when you have 70% of your vineyards are classified either as a Grosslagen or Erstelagen by the VDP. This is something that I'm going to end with, is that this is a little piece of like nerdiness. This little acronym VDP stands for the Verband Deutscher Prädikatsweinguter. It basically means it's like the Association for High Quality German Winemakers. And they are really, there are some places that, you join an organization, professional organization, and they just say that they're the best, and that's, it's more of like a, yeah, okay, you say that. And then in Germany, the VDP really is the best winemakers. And they have a classification called GG, or Grossgewächs. They can't put that on the label for legal reasons that are fairly nebulous, but the best 256 vineyards in Germany are all classified as GG, which means that they all have a member of the VDP producing something out of them. And for the fact that 70% of Balthasar Ress holdings falls within a GG or a Erstelagen, which is what sometimes they the differentiation is weird when it comes to different regions in Germany, but basically it's suffice it to say 70% of their vineyards are some of the most badass vineyards in all of Germany. So what we're actually enjoying and what we're actually able to bring you is an incredible value. And when I went to the winery and I just kind of spent a couple hours with Stefan and all the people there, it was just very easy. It was very evident to tell that they know what they're doing. They make classic wines, the Predikat wines, and they make sweet wines, and they have that reputation already. What we're presenting you is some of the stuff that they're doing on the side that's just like a fun little project that they enjoy doing because they get to. You don't get to do stuff like this unless you have your shit together. They have their shit together, and that's why they can branch out and do a little Pet Nat or do a little orange wine, and just experiment with things that are a little bit avant-gardiste for Germany, but are definitely catching on in the future. So, Phil, any questions, thoughts, comments?
No, I mean, excited to see more from these guys.
Yeah. We're excited. Thank you very much again for supporting Bliss Wine Club. We will be back next month with some offerings from a little bit of a different corner of the world. I'm not gonna ruin the surprise just yet, but it should be pretty fun. If you haven't gotten a chance to take a look on the website, if you want more information on these wines, please do let us know. And cheers. Happy summer.